I'm often asked how many hours a day do I spend painting? And you know, it varies from day to day. Some days I get more hours in than others. It really would be cool to paint all day, which led me to an idea. And I set myself a little bit of a challenge. What if I painted all day? Like, all day. This is the 24-hour challenge. Now, this stupid challenge was a real test of mental endurance and willpower with some interesting results. Roll that intro. Hi there and welcome to the studio. My name's Andrew and it's an absolute pleasure to have your company here once again. Now, I've been a professional artist for nearly 20 years and I can remember back in the early days having to stay up all night to either finish a body of work for an exhibition or working on a commission right up to that deadline. Sometimes insane hours can be part of the creative life. And for many years there, it was just something that I was used to. But it's not always recommended. You see, we should be better at structuring our time. Now, as I think back, I can remember this one time in particular where I stayed up working on a commission, and I think the total time I spent in the stool working on that painting was 19 and a half hours straight. Now, thinking back to earlier this year, I was actually going through a little bit of artist block, which is really uncommon for me. And I also had this one painting that I really wanted to get stuck into that I was just keeping out there at arm's length. Now, this wasn't a commission, it wasn't for an exhibition, it's just something I really wanted to do. So it was safe. It was a safe idea by not executing. I could just keep it out there and go, oh, one day I'll get to that. So a combination of things came together. With one other thing, I'm pretty happy with my technique for the most part, but I desperately want to loosen up. And I find myself really gravitating towards the work of my painting heroes like Joaquin Sorolla or John Singer Sargent. Now, I paint nothing like these guys, but they've got an approach to oil painting that I just love. Their brushwork is free and loose and bold and confident. And I find that when I'm working on a painting, they start off pretty loose, but as the painting progresses, it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. So I wanted to find a way to break that and just get out of that habit, if only for a little while, just to experience pushing paint with some real freedom and some real texture. I was thinking, okay, how do I get rid of this artist block? How do I launch and execute this painting? And how do I do it with a free technique? And then it hit me. Why don't I do this 24-hour challenge with this painting and just track the results and see what happens? What could possibly go wrong? Now, before we get stuck into this challenge, I'm just gonna say, do not try this at home. I don't recommend this for anybody. It's a dumb idea. Look, just don't do it. I'm gonna suffer through it so you don't have to. Now let's just run through a few of the ground rules first before getting stuck into the challenge. The 24-hour challenge has got to be done in one 24-hour stretch of time. I can't just add up little tiny segments of time and complete a 24 hours that way. It has to be done in one sitting. I'm not allowed to sleep. I'm not allowed to rest at all. If I fall asleep, instant disqualification. Now, I can't leave the building. I have to stay in the studio, so I'm not allowed to go for a walk or do anything like that. Although one time I did go and get myself a cup of coffee, but the corner store was like right next door. But if I went for a nice long leisurely stroll, then that would be instant disqualification. If I take too long for a break, instant disqualification. So I am allowed to take breaks, but they have to be short breaks to get a glass of water, use a restroom, get a cup of coffee, eat a quick dinner, lunch, or breakfast. But I can't take too long with those breaks. I tried to keep them to 15 minutes tops. And from the outset, I wasn't going to try and finish this painting in the 24-hour session. The main point was just to stay working for that 24 hours straight. So here's the painting that I'm working on. And you might remember this from a previous video called River Horses. Now, I went out into the Lake Ohau area of the South Island of New Zealand, collected some awesome reference material, brought that back into the studio, and started sketching up the idea, first as tiny little oil color studies, and then this ended up in the sketchbook where I worked out my composition with a bit more detail, and then finally I produced a detailed digital image in Photoshop. And this is what I've transferred to the canvas and what I'm going to be working on for this 24-hour challenge. So if you haven't seen that video just yet on river horses, go back and watch that first. It might give you a little bit of context to what I'm doing here, and you'll find that by clicking the link down below. Now, as I'm chipping away at the 24-hour challenge, you're going to see the time code appear in 24-hour time somewhere on the screen. So now that you're familiar with the idea and we've gone over the ground rules, let's get stuck into this challenge. Okay, it's 10:30 in the morning. It's Saturday. I am about to start this thing. So I guess I've got until 24 hours from now. Not off to a great start, I must say. I feel like I've got next to no sleep last night. I already feel like I've done the challenge. But hey, it is what it is. No time like it. I'm gonna jump straight in, and maybe after a few hours in, I'm gonna start to get in the rhythm. So I'm taking the time from when I first get paint out on that palette, and then that 24-hour challenge starts. 10:30 a.m. Let's do it. Now, I don't have a lot of time for this challenge. I've got to get out some bold brush work and mix up some simple combinations of color. Here I'm thinking that what's going to give me an edge is large bristle brushes from this bristle flat and also bristle daggers. And I'm just treating the sky as my first zone. Okay, it's 11:30 a.m. I've already put in 1 hour, feeling pretty good. The headache hasn't gone, it's just lingering, but it's not any worse. I'm pretty excited about the road ahead. We'll just see if the energy keeps up. It's funny, as soon as I start painting, I start getting really excited, and I'm very excited about this idea. The paint seems to be flowing really nicely, made a good start on the sky. Bring on hour 2, here we go. So once I found a groove, it's easier to start working on this entire mass of color. I'm thinking about transitions of tones, the way you would get these really deep shadows in thunderclouds at a vast distance away from the viewer. I start to drop that tone considerably with burnt umber and ultramarine blue, and kicking up the violet just a notch with some quinacridone magenta. Again, I'm just working on zones and treating that sky as one mass. Okay, it's 12:30. Looking pretty good so far. Pretty happy with it. I need to work on those transitions and the color up there in the sky. Just model and manipulate that a bit more. Might wait till it sets up a bit of a surface tack. But, oh, I'm feeling rough. Headache is coming out of nowhere, and it is getting worse and worse and worse. Good thing I've got my lovely wife bringing me down some Panadol and something to eat. So, I don't know, I might tap out sooner rather than later. I don't want to, I want to carry on. So I can't start thinking like this. It's only like the start of hour 3? I can't even math. Despite the headache, I pushed through and began working on the mountain. I love the way this mountain is lost in that massive cloud, and then a sharp edge is found again right against the area of the sky that's brightest. I'm thinking about contrasting tones and colors and creating a bit of interest back here. But at the same time, I want this area to sink into the distance so the horses have got the vast majority of the viewer's attention. I create some interesting atmospheric grays, reminiscent of some grassy slopes right here in the distant areas of the mountain, laying in those chunky brush marks. Already, my brushwork is feeling looser, and I'm easing into a more painterly flow. Now, the edge of this bristle dagger really helps create some more structure in these mountainous forms, but I also use that broadside plenty, and this helps me cover a lot of ground quickly. I'm gonna need this technique to complete this challenge. Hopefully, I make it all the way through. Anyway, I finished the 4th hour now. I'm about to get into the 5th hour, and yeah, feeling much better. I've started to hit that groove, so let's just hope it stays that way and I'm able to sustain that concentration now for the next 20 hours. Oh man, just saying it, I shudder. All right, wish me luck. Now this hazy green is achieved by using burnt sienna and just a touch of yellow ochre. If I got too much yellow out in the combination here, it would kill that atmospheric depth. Yellow tends to travel further forward towards the viewer, so I try to knock this back plenty by using my earth tones, but then incorporating more and more of that magenta and ultramarine. Now having some sort of strategy in mind will really help this challenge. I'm thinking I'm going to work my way from the sky to the mountains and bring that edge downward to meet the horses' backs. But it's a huge amount of area to cover in this canvas, especially given the time. Okay, it's 6:30, speeding up, and it's looking better for the extra speed. Still a bit rough, but it's the block end. So this is kind of combining the modeling and the block end. And I must say, for 7 hours down, I'm feeling pretty fresh. Pretty darn fresh. Don't think that's gonna last very long. Anyway, into hour number 8. Here we go. I try to adhere to all those principles that I would normally when I'm creating a landscape painting. So I try to increase the contrast as I bring forms closer towards the viewer, as well as the saturation or the chroma that I'm using in my palette, so colors get more intense as they come further forward. I want to create a chalice-like effect here with these mountains cradling the horses in the center of the composition. 8:30 p.m. Can't talk. Gotta paint. I'm trying to keep my brushwork really loose here and really painterly. I'm thinking about artists like Joaquin Sorolla and John Singer Sargent, two of my painting heroes. To achieve cleaner color, I'm using multiple brushes. I've got some here for lighter tones and some for darker tones. Physically, I'm holding up pretty well, even though I've been standing for several hours. Okay, it's 10:30 and the painting is looking pretty good. Pretty happy with it so far. And I just realized I've only got another 20 minutes before that corner store closes. So I better get over there and get some coffee so I've got enough caffeination to see me through the rest of this project. So we're nearly at the halfway point. We are at the halfway point, not including breaks. So far, so good. Feeling pretty fresh. It's all downhill from here.
1 hour later.
Looking at it, kind of half the area is gone. That was probably the more simple part of the painting. Now the more complicated part of the painting has got to be done. My energy is about half of that when I started. So I got twice the work to do, probably half the energy. I don't think I'm going to make it. Often I get my best work done late at night. So it's going to be interesting to see how this painting goes over the course of the evening. One of the things that's going to help me get through this challenge is more paint. More paint means I'm not going to be scrubbing on that surface quite as much. I'm going to be laying down bold strategic marks and really cover that area. I also can't afford to keep going over and over the same spot again and again. I'm making a conscious effort to keep that brush loaded, and I'm trying not to go back too much to fiddle with the marks. The time constraint is really encouraging me to maintain that painterly approach. And so far, the technique's holding up pretty well, and I'm happy with my progress. It's 3:30 a.m. Really slowing down. But I feel fine. Yeah, I feel great. I'm bringing these marks up to the edge of where the horses are. And of course, because I'm going to layer back over the top of this painting, this block end layer, I'm also trying to keep that texture to a minimum right where it meets the edge of the horse. Now, ridge lines, of course, could be an issue if I have to go back and paint over the top. and this could be problematic if I decided down the track to move the horse's legs, for instance. But in some parts of the painting, texture is going to help and be a real asset, particularly when it comes to painting rocks. Now I'm mixing medium into my oil paint here using Liquid Original and Liquid Impasto, and this is helping the paint flow off the brush. But I'm never using more than a ratio of 1 part medium to 3 parts paint, or 25%. If I go over that ratio, it could lead to some problems down the track, like yellowing, cracking, or disadhesion. Okay, I've reached a bit of a milestone here. It's 5:45 in the morning. That foreground, I'm pretty happy with where that's at. I think it's time to do some horses. So we're gonna go and focus on this one. And surprisingly, I think I caught a second wind, so I'm feeling okay. Maybe it's the coffee, maybe, but I'm feeling like I could probably get into this and do an okay job with it. So 6:30, it's another 5 hours to go from 6:30 in 45 minutes. Yeah. I really want to give up, but I am determined to finish this challenge. I want to see it through to the end. It'd be such a shame to make it all this way and just quit at 4 in the morning. But I press on and start mixing up some color for the lighter horse. Now here, I'm gonna need some control, so I reduce the size of my brush. I'm still using bristle, flats, and daggers. We're just gonna lay down one tile of color at a time and just manipulate subtly some of these wet layers to create a 3-dimensional form. Okay, 7:30 a.m. Time is just melting away. As is my brain right now. So I've kind of given up, given up on painting every single horse or even blocking in the rest of the painting. That is just not going to happen. Wishful thinking. I always do this as well. I always overestimate my abilities and underestimate, the time. It is what it is. So what I decided is I'm going to try and do the best I can with this one horse, and we'll see how that goes. So as I see it, I've got another 3 hours to finish the challenge, plus an extra hour penalty for all of the breaks, of which I'm going to have another one now. Because I deserve it. Having a detailed design really helps when it comes to painting something at this scale. I continually go back and refer to that digital drawing that I produced in Photoshop. I'm really looking forward to those sessions to come where I'm gonna lay in some detail into this horse and paint that hair catching this morning sunlight. But first, I need a solid base to work over. So again, I start laying in those tiles of color. And notice here, what I'm doing is I'm creating an even transition, a very smooth transition from those deeper tones in the shadows to those highlights to really round out some form here. And I'm no horse expert. Hopefully I'm close to getting this horse right, but I will go back at some point and address any anatomical issues that may come up. I don't want to get bogged down in that right now though. I just want to get paint down and cover area fast. If I start getting too fiddly, I just take one look at that clock and that spurs me on. I know I have to get on with it. This painting is absolutely massive. I have no idea what I was thinking. Well, I'm glad to see a horse has finally shown up. Pretty happy with the way it's looking overall. I really wish I had what it took to get the rest of them blocked in over this time. But I'm down to the last hour of the 24-hour challenge. I feel surprisingly okay. I don't know what that is. It ain't caffeine because the last coffee was quite a while ago. But yeah, I don't know what I learned from this lesson. I'm sure I learned something. Give me a minute and I'll figure it out. Anyway, last hour. So I think I'm going to finish painting at 11:30. and then give myself half an hour to pack up, wash the brushes, clean the palette off, go to bed. All right, let's keep painting that horse. Well, that's a wrap. That's as far as I could make it in a 24-hour period on this particular painting anyway. I think I could keep going. I don't know what's talking. I don't think my brain's quite working right now. So I better quit while I'm ahead. And maybe after a bit of sleep, I might decide that what I've done is absolute rubbish. But, yeah. I achieved something. It was an interesting challenge, I'll say that. I think I'm gonna need some time to decompress and just think about it, but I think I did prove something to myself. Smashed my old record, so that's saying something. Yeah, maybe get a bit of sleep now and come back to this with fresh eyes. Maybe scrub it all off and start again. I don't know, we'll see. Oh, I'm out of it. Now for the haters who don't think I really did this challenge and I'm just faking the whole thing, here's the security camera footage from the studio. Now watch up here at the top of the screen. There's the date and there's the time. And notice how it's counting down the clock. 24 hours. Now this was a really silly challenge, but I found it was successful in unblocking that creative struggle that I had earlier this year. I also think that the size of the painting and the size of the brushes and that time constraint did actually lead to a looser technique. I was really under the pump, really trying to fit everything into that 24-hour period that it was forcing me to make looser brush marks. And there's a couple of moments here in this painting that I thought I nearly achieved a technique that I was happy with. It's not quite there. I'm always quite critical of my work, but there was a couple of moments there with the mountains over on the left-hand side of the composition. I was really happy with some of those angles and the shift in the tones here, but also that distant mountain as well with the structured marks given by that bristled dagger brush. And of course, working in that horse's head, I was pretty happy with the form and the colors overall. It was also really interesting to see what was happening to me mentally over that 24-hour period. As you would expect, it got a bit weird there at particular parts where I just don't know what planet I was on. But it was really interesting as well. In the small hours of the following day, I got a second wind and I felt like I could almost keep going. At the end of the challenge, I could have done 25, 26 hours and then probably would have crashed and burned, but it was weird that I could have kept going. Now this was a really silly challenge and it's not something I'm ever gonna do again, and I'm not gonna call anybody else out to do it either. But if I was, I think SLEW's gotta do it. Now, I'm going to keep you posted on this painting in particular. I've got several more videos coming out on this. I've had a few people asking already, is there going to be a tutorial? I'll look at producing something like that as the painting gets finished off, but this is going to be one of those major projects that I chew on over 2022. Now, if you like my paintings and you want to live with one of my images, then check out Ex Animo Fine Art Editions. I'll put a link to that in the description down below. I've teamed up with Ex Animo now, who are going to be doing all of my limited edition prints. And Ex Animo came about through several conversations that I had with my agent, Andreas, over there in Perth in Western Australia. I really wanted to improve the quality of my prints and also make them more accessible, and that's where Ex Animo comes in. Ex Animo now have some of my signature works from the past few years, with a limited edition in each size of only 99. These limited editions are on acid-free canvas or Hahnemühle paper and printed using archival inks. And Exanimo also offers free shipping worldwide. Now, Exanimo have my brand new print called Midday Radiance. This is my most recent seascape painting. So if you want to get your hands on a limited edition print, then check out Exanimo Editions by clicking that link in the description down below. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, then click that like button and leave me a comment down below. If you want to see more painting videos just like this one, then make sure you subscribe to this channel and click that notification bell so you're notified when I upload another video. As always, you can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but most important, make sure you subscribe through my website at andrewtischler.com. All my subscribers through my website get these videos 24 hours ahead of the rest. So jump over to my website. It's free to subscribe. All right, I'm gonna get out of here, get back to painting. I'll see you in the next video.